Hello and welcome to those unfortunate enough to stumble across this. Today, we're going to be talking about this silly article I've had in store for a while, but, well, you should know by looking at this channel we are very bad at managing our time. Sonic Frontiers is popular, but it's a boring Sonic game, and I'm bitter about it. Sonic is dead. Long live Sonic. An article from Rock Paper Shotgun, which is a fucking retarded website, and every time I see an article from them, it annoys me. I'm here with my friend Aura today.
Hi, I'm Aura Shen.
And we're gonna read this article as, well, me and Aura have beaten the game. And, as unfortunate as it is, the only other people who have beaten the game are not available at the moment.
Dun dun dun.
Forewarned, I will probably be mean to this author because, well, their opinions are trash.
We'll try to keep any spoilers down.
I mean, the game's been out for a bit now. After all these years of going fast, it would appear that Sonic T. Hedgehog has finally arrived. That was supposed to be a joke. That was terrible. He's thrown off the shackles of individuality and joined the open-world herd with Sonic Frontiers, a game that sees the Blue Blur himself canter and gamble across primarily barren environments that closely resemble the default assets that ship with certain game engines. Do I seem embittered? Perish the thought. I'm happy for Sonic, honestly. He's made it. He's on top of the world right now, getting review scores he never could have dreamed of since the salad days of the Mega Drive. A Metacritic in the 70s. He may as well have been kissed on the nips by Jesus Christ himself. That is a strange saying. So many stupid things in this opening paragraph.
Just a handful.
One, I've never heard salad used like that before. Or you read more than me. Does it?
I've never seen that analogy.
Okay. I wanted to know if I was just insane. Now, a lot of people have this issue with the art style of the game, of the relatively realistic environment, then with the cartoonish hedgehog, and then with the Eldritch Horror robots that litter the game.
Mm-hmm.
The Eldritch Horror robots look that way because they're made by aliens. Aliens that don't look like... They're not made of flesh and blood. We'll say that. So, yes, I would expect their technology to look quite bizarre, and
right,
it succeeds in that.
They're not made by Mobians.
Yeah. Then you get to the environment. Now, I know this guy, Stuart Gipp. He may not realize this, but the Sonic games have intended to look realistic since Sonic Adventure. Because at the time, that was relatively realistic looking.
Mm-hmm.
For a console game. So, I don't get that criticism with a lot of people. It's like, oh, it's too realistic looking for the environments. Like, it's kind of some of the surreal aspect of Sonic's world is that it's fantastical, but also a mishmash of realism. It's not that big of an issue to me. Well, I don't know about how you feel about Aurora, but overall, I thought the game looked fine.
I disagree with what he's saying, but I think what he was saying is he didn't like the way the background looked due to being ugly, not having to do with any kind of realism. I don't think it looked ugly.
Maybe. And so he runs, pinging his way between springboard, winches, boost pads, and little floating balloons, tapping the X button to bounce between them when a little target appears, beckoning him to do its bidding. Sonic looks east, he looks west, and he sees grind rails. He's free, you see, and so am I, free from giving the slightest toss about this stupid rubbish series for undemanding children. My guy, Sonic the Hedgehog is a children's series.
Right. Strange that he's complaining that it's for undemanding children when he's sounding like a child right now.
Yeah, so this is going to be very similar to the Final Fantasy Murdered My Childhood article we read, 2 years ago now?
Drama!
The easy answer is he's a little bitch.
Something like that.
But okay, so he's totally for serious this time, guys. So like everyone else is totally for serious when they're done with this franchise, and then they go back to it when the next fucking game comes out.
Mm-hmm. Very strange place to be done with the franchise.
Especially
it just tells
since
me
it's
that he didn't like the franchise in the first place.
Especially since this is the best Sonic game, or mainline Sonic game since Adventure 2.
Mm-hmm.
You could probably make an argument for Heroes, but I wouldn't.
Yeah.
I like Heroes well enough, but I think there's more issues in Heroes than there is in Sonic Frontiers.
Oh yeah.
Granted, I like the villain of Heroes more, but
You could be Vector.
and yeah, you could be Vector. Heroes does a lot of things I like, but it has issues.
Sure.
Everyone knows 3D Sonic is the Sonic people have always liked best. Well, I'm guessing that's either a quote from later in the article or just by itself for some random reason.
I'm not sure. It's very strangely placed.
But no, most man-children who cry on the internet and think that people give two flying fucks about their opinions have been screeching non-stop for the last, I don't know, 20-something years that Sonic belongs in a 2D space. Because he should just be a Mario clone. Because these people have the taste of children.
Since he was limited to that kind of design way back then, he can never change.
Even though if you go back to the original games, they attempted doing 3D shit pretty early with the special games.
Sonic 3D?
Special zones, yeah. Well, Sonic 3D Blast, and then in the special zones, they attempted 3D. You could argue it didn't work, but Sonic's been a franchise that's always been kind of trying to push the what they do. And granted, it flops more times than it works, but it is kind of important to the series. It's what it's always done. No, I'm not bitter. I grew up playing Sonic and have subsequently enjoyed or endured every single game in the entire series across my 35 wasted years. So, yeah, he still has the taste of video games from when he was 2 or 3 or 6 or whenever the fuck he started playing Sonic games.
What it sounds like.
Defending his perceived missteps at almost every turn and insisting that his collective work had merit. That Sonic games, even at their worst, offered up something interesting, something strange, some mechanic presented in a way so alien to what is considered good game design that I can't help but smile. Think of the way Sonic Adventure feels like it's held together with more masking tape, yet remains an absolute joy to explore. Well, Sonic Adventure doesn't feel like it's held together with more masking tape. This is a common internet criticism for people who haven't played the game in 25 fucking years.
You gotta remember, folks, this is a Dreamcast game.
And I'm not going to sit there and pretend that Sonic Adventure controlled phenomenally. But if you compare to other 3D platformers of the time, it controlled a hell of a lot better.
Sure.
And I do agree, most Sonic games have something to offer even at their worst. Usually it's the music. Like Sonic the Lost World is bad. And mechanically, there's not really any joy to be had. Like Sonic Colors, a lot of people like the colored wisp mechanic. I thought it was fucking stupid, but
it was a gimmick.
Yeah, a really bad one in my opinion.
Mm.
Oh, for God's sake! Of course I'm bitter. How could I not be bitter that Sonic has thrown all that delightful strangeness, that offbeat wrongness back in my weeping face? Why are you weeping, you little faggot? What the hell is Sonic Frontiers anyway? A set of enormous maps that you gradually reveal portions of, complete with icons all over to tidy up. And it's blinkin' bleedin' Assassin's Creed, isn't it? This is what people want from Sonic. This is what makes them cheer. To see him fall in line, for him to be boring. Okay. The maps are not... I mean, they're big.
Mm-hmm.
And you could argue they're pretty empty. Story-wise, it kind of makes sense for why they're empty.
Yeah.
It is still a criticism, though.
Sure.
And you know damn well, if there weren't icons all over it, this dude would be crying that he couldn't find any of the area he was supposed to go.
Mm-hmm.
That's what happens. People bitch. And even then, I don't really think Sonic Frontiers falls in line with Assassin's Creed or Far Cry, mostly because I have eyes.
He's completely reaching. The only thing that's close is that the fact that you can...
It's got a big open map.
It's got a big open map, and that you can fill in the map by collecting tokens.
Yeah, but that'd be like saying Breath of the Wild or Tears of the Kingdom are also Assassin's Creed or Uncharted clones, and it's like, if you're like completely retarded, yeah.
It was a stretch.
Nice stretch.
If you want to run like Sonic, make sure you stretch.
There you go. Frontiers isn't a total failure as a game, of course. Repeating the same actions and making Sonic incrementally more powerful is the usual open-world dopamine. The same sort of satisfaction you get from cleaning up your bedroom, except you can't do anything with the space that's left. That's a very strange analogy. That's the most destructive problem with Sonic Frontiers. Everything you do ultimately makes the game more boring. The cyberspace stages seem like a blessed respite from the numbing repetition of the open world, but these more traditional 3D Sonic stages reuse stage layouts from past games by design. They chose to do this. It's another form of surrender, a total acknowledgement of and acceptance that the days of anything new, anything somewhat unique, are well and truly over. He says, ignoring the fact that Sonic Generations exist.
It sounds like he doesn't really know what he wants, because this is unique to a Sonic game. It might not be unique to other games, other than the fact that he's racing around the level. I don't know if he's looking for a gimmick to hold the game together, like a lot of other games have tried to do.
But even then, it has a gimmick compared to every other Sonic game. Combat.
Sure.
So, like, I don't get what he wants. And maybe he'll say later. Maybe by the end of this article, I'll apologize. And I'll be like, this Stewart guy made me look like a fool. Completely changed my mind.
Foresight's a hell of a thing.
That's a hint, fellow audience. That is what we call foreshadowing. So from articles I saw leading up to the release of the game, they were reusing stage layouts from past games. Granted, they are changed due to the fact that most of these games, like the Sonic Adventure levels, or Sonic Adventure 2 levels, don't have you don't have boost gameplay in Sonic Adventure 2. Crazy, I know. So they are actually changed to make use of it. I'm fine with this because I read an article way back before this game came out, and I don't know if it was a fuck up in translation or not, but they were saying they were reusing some of the stage layouts to get themselves basically back into the making good stages because, well, Sonic Forces exist.
Right. And what people have to remember is we haven't had a Sonic game like this in years. Of course, they have to get themselves back into the race.
Yeah, because
do something simple.
Because
that worked.
Because Forces had a whole bunch of 2D levels that weren't very good, and the 3D levels it did have were very bad. Lost World, most of the levels in that were not great, from what I can remember. I think there was a couple of good ones, but I couldn't tell you off the top of my head. Colors has like a few levels I like, but for the most part, it's a 2D game. Generations, it's Generations. It uses a lot of old levels, just crazified, and that's fine. But in terms of like 3D level design that is needed, what, Sonic 06? You have to go back almost 17 years. So,
That sounds right.
I'm gonna go on a limb here and assume the team is completely different now.
Sounds right. I don't do numbers so good.
The technique is working, of course. People are saying Frontiers is the best Sonic game in years. They're even saying it's the best Sonic game ever, which of course it isn't, but there's no reason to fight back. It's not the best Sonic game ever. Adventure 2 exists, but it is the best mainline Sonic game since probably Adventure 2, in my opinion. I know a lot of people think Generations is like the greatest Sonic game ever, but I liked Adventure 2 more.
Storyline wise, I think I liked Adventure better, although it had quite a few problems that 2 fixed. I still like it more.
But I am in that camp of it's probably the best Sonic game in main 3D Sonic game in 20 years. Of course, we both know nothing beats Sonic Shuffle.
Fun game.
The Sonic fan base is vehemently post-truth, and has been since the Sega Saturn was a thing. It's a fan base I found myself increasingly alienated from, and whose anger seems to have dramatically increased with its unwarranted self-assuredness. Maybe I don't really associate with online fandoms, because I'm not a 12-year-old. So this is just strange to me, as a strange thing to complain about.
Right, this does not seem like it's been written by a 35-year-old.
This seems like it's written by, like, a 15-year-old who got pissed off because he got banned from his favorite Sonic forum.
Throwing a tantrum and decided to write on his MySpace wall.
Remember MySpace? It lets you play copyrighted music. I'm pretty self-assured too, clearly. But having experienced the Sonic series since its... Is that a word?
I've not run across that word before.
Okay, no, it's not a word. I just checked it.
Oh, he didn't space.
He didn't space it. This is posted.
Yep.
Games journalists, or just journalists in general, honestly, learn to fucking type.
Go through your stuff before you post, please.
Like, that should have had a red squiggly line under it.
Have somebody read it for you.
Fucking hell.
Even if it's just a friend. Friends don't let friends write stupid. Well, there's that too. Unless they're better than this guy.
Well, I think my shoe would be better at typing than this guy. But having experienced the Sonic series since its 1991 debut, the difference for me is that the derivative likes of Sonic Mania, Sonic Forces, and now the final acquiescence to the generic open-world collectathon, Sonic Frontiers, have mortally wounded my interest in Sonic the Hedgehog. An absurd statement in the face of it, but it's true, and it's genuinely saddening outcome considering my former passion for both the games and the people who play them, who study them with scrutiny that no other franchise has ever received. That is true, that the Sonic franchise and our games are probably more scrutinized than literally every other franchise. I will give him that. Granted, the people doing the scrutinizing have no idea what the fuck they're talking about, but it is a numbers game.
They try really hard.
They try really hard. I should find the clip of the guy going, and Sonic takes off at blazing speeds, and just walks off a fucking cliff, and he doesn't because it's Sonic Adventure 1.
Oh my!
I'll find that clip and I'll put it right here.
Into Sonic accelerating way too fast. He blasts off at the slightest tap of the stick. It gave future developers handy rules to follow. Rules like, don't start the game in the middle of a boss fight. In addition to the level designers placing insta-kill drops that the camera careens your movement towards.
Are you serious?
But yeah, he calls derivatives like Sonic Mania, Sonic Forces, but he doesn't mention Generations, which kind of tell you that this guy... He likes Generations, but he doesn't like those other ones, therefore they're bad.
Mm-hmm.
He's a fucking tool. It's something of a pleasant irony that it's the most acclaimed Sonic in a long time that has seemingly ended my journey alongside the series. My immersion in its fandom, Sonic Frontiers, has succeeded by shedding what made Sonic so interesting to me. Its oddness, its unwillingness to conform to contemporary gaming tropes and standards. Now it's a quasi-open world full of stuff to pick up and map squares to fill in. To take down the same bosses over and over again to gather more items than you could possibly need. You really don't have to take down that many bosses.
You only need to take them out once, like maybe once. A lot of them you don't even have to fight.
Yeah. And now it's a quasi-open world, and he acts like all Sonic games going forward are going to be like this. And I would be willing to bet money the next Sonic game probably won't be an open world. And if there is, it'll literally only be the next Sonic game.
Mm-hmm.
The Sonic team has, for quite literally since it started doing shit for the Dreamcast, even before then, they get an idea, they do it, they might do something with it a second time, and then they fuck off to a new idea. It's... Yeah, and he says it's oddness and its unwillingness to conform to contemporary gaming tropes and standards. Yeah. Does Far Cry have random platforming mini-levels that just are associated in the map? How about Tears of the Kingdom? Metro 2021, or whatever the fuck it's called. Exodus? Like, these are all open-world games. Oh no, most open-world games are survival shooters? Crazy that. I didn't know they weren't all platformers. Honestly, so far this article makes it sound like every open world game is a fucking platformer.
It didn't even feel like Mario Odyssey, which would be the closest thing I could think of to it.
Yeah, it's like the closest mainline or AAA like platformer. Yeah. Would he complain that Mario Odyssey was open world? Because it wasn't the same aspect. You had a bunch of mini areas that were open.
You could also go to the moon.
Sonic Frontiers can't go to the moon. We clearly know what the superior game is.
Don't go to the dark side of the moon, though. There's bad people there.
I never completed that area because it was a pain in the ass.
I did.
And I'd already beaten it, and I was like, oh, I saw the ending.
It's a boss rush.
Yeah, I got, I don't even remember which one. I got stuck on one, and it was pissing me off, and I was like, I don't know why I'm having so much trouble with this. And then the new shiny game came out, and I started playing that instead.
That happens. I play a game until I don't want to play it anymore. Usually nearly 100% in it.
There's a long future ahead of Sonic Frontiers, with several free DLC items and expansions planned, but I won't be a part of it. It's the final nail in the coffin of my interest in Sonic the Hedgehog, whose imperfections have been replaced with content. What the fuck kind of statement is that?
Doesn't like content.
Oh, dang. First time since Sonic 06, we're going to be allowed to play another character besides Sonic in a main 3D game. Oh, darn.
What I want to know is, what imperfections is he actually talking about? Not once has he given a valid point yet, other than open world. Like, he hasn't once said which of the games so far. He might do it later, probably not, but he hasn't once said which games he actually likes. Like, contrast.
I mean, he said which games he disliked: Mania, Forces, and Frontiers.
Done a lot of that, but not what he does like.
Although, if he is a fantastic Sonic fan who's been with us since the beginning, I would have assumed he liked Mania. I like Mania as well, but it is basically a mod.
I was never a fan too much of the 2D ones.
Yeah. I prefer the 3D in Sonic.
Right.
Part of my reason why I dislike colors so much. But I know that's crazy for a lot of people. But yeah, like, oh darn, free content in an era where every game has a fucking season pass that adds nothing.
Right.
Oh darn. And it was announced, I'm pretty sure, before the game even came out, or on the in the same week.
Shortly after. I know it did before I beat the game.
Yeah, I guess. Anyway, the game's inarguable success and the warm embrace of the enthusiasts propping it up mean that the reality means. Fucking journalist. means that the reality of its gameplay is essentially of no consequence. 30 years since Sonic really mattered, he's back in the spotlight, just in time for gaming shepherd's crook to hook my neck and comically yank me off screen. What the fuck does that mean?
He's basically has a heightened ego, and he's basically I don't even know. It sounds pompous.
It is. It's pompous nonsense, but okay. It has enthusiasts propping it up, like every game that has fans.
Right.
The gameplay is essentially of no consequence. The fuck does that mean? You have to do shit in the game in order to progress the game, and you need to progress the game in order to beat the game.
You trying to say, unlike the original Sonic games, you don't have lives?
Like that is a genuine thing I would say is a problem with Frontiers as well. I wish that you only had a few lives, because you can. It is true. You have infinite lives, and it's kind of stupid.
I would not have liked that for the final boss. The final boss.
Yeah.
Only because that does. Well, we could talk about that later.
The final boss is a surprise, to say the least, and it doesn't. I did not have fun with it.
One critique of the game is they introduce a certain mechanic that is not Sonic related at all.
But it is the main thing to beat the final boss, so it's...
And you have to do this thing to beat the boss.
Yeah. Maybe it's easier on other difficulties. I only ever beat the game on its hard mode, so...
You literally can only fight that final boss on the hardest difficulty.
Oh.
Yep. Otherwise, you get a cutscene.
Huh. The more you know.
Yep.
Cosmically, it of course doesn't matter in the slightest that Sonic has at last shaken me off. Cosmically? You think you're a cosmic being? You think Sonic is a cosmic being? I'll tell you, Sega doesn't have good enough lawyers to be a cosmic being.
Now, Kirby, on the other hand.
Kirby, Nintendo's a cosmic being. Their lawyers could sue you for it to make it so.
True.
The series is free to do what it wants, and has finally found a formula with broader appeal. The original games had broad appeal. There's a reason Sonic became successful, you fucking nitwit.
Mm-hmm.
Oh darn, times change. And again, this guy acts like Sonic hasn't been jumping from one formula to the next in rapid succession for the last 22 years.
I want to know how he feels about the difference between Sonic 1, and Sonic 3. Sonic 2 and Sonic 3. Because those were all pretty much the same thing with just different levels.
Yeah, had different power-ups. Well, in 2 you got Tails, and in 3 you got Knuckles. And it's like, congratulations, and at the end of the day, they're still basically the same.
They're the same game with a different map.
Yeah. It remains to be seen whether it will still with this approach that clearly works, or... Am I retarded, or is that sentence just weird? It remains to be seen whether it will still with this approach that clearly works.
He's trying to go back to the previous sentence with the whole formula with the broader appeal. But I don't think that's how you do it. I don't think that's proper grammar.
Fuck, it looks like something Saber would have wrote. Or if Sega will inexplicably pull the plug again. Me? I'll be playing something else, probably some NES game. Not a care in the world. Sonic the Hedgehog is dead to me, but to the rest of the world, he's more vital, more complete, and more exciting than ever. So yes, he still has the taste from when he was 6 years old, and he hasn't grown up since then.
Basically.
Now, dear viewers, it's fine to keep liking shit from when you were a kid. I still like Godzilla movies. I still like Sonic the Hedgehog.
Mm-hmm.
You gotta grow up and let your taste evolve, though. Otherwise, you end up like this nitwit.
Mm-hmm. At any point in time, we can go back and play some old games. But sometimes I want to play some new games. And I have the... what would you say? The heightened tastes?
The evolved taste.
Evolved tastes. But I can enjoy both.
Because it's not that fucking hard to...
Like the people who lost their minds over the new Final Fantasy not being a turn-based.
Oh yeah, I mean, that started happening.
Absolutely lost their minds, and it's like, you already have that game.
It's because a lot of... and it's not most people, honestly, it's just the loud idiots on the internet. They want to... they constantly want to do the same thing and repeat the same thing and play the same thing, watch the same thing. Because they like repetition, like when you have to lull a baby to sleep. That is the end of this article, and... no, Stuart Gipp. You did not change my mind. Sonic Frontiers, it is incredibly popular, and I think that's probably for the best, because it's not a glitchy, broken mess. Or, offensively short. Or, and whatnot about Sonic Frontiers. Like, he didn't even talk about most of the game. He literally just gave a vague, it's open world, therefore bad. Like, he didn't talk about mechanics, he didn't talk about story, he didn't talk about voice acting. It's such an unfortunate thing, because there's a lot of things to talk about in those aspects.
This is what I have to say to it. At no point in your rambling, incoherent response were you even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought. Everyone watching this video is now dumber for having listened to it. Quoted from Billy Madison.
I award you no points, and may God have mercy on your soul.
That's what it was. It was a ramble. It didn't have any, like, concrete evidence of, like, what made it bad. He didn't once, like, say, like, what he would have preferred, other than what we have to infer, which is the older games. Like, way older games.
Yeah, the originals. Also, the sense, it's 30 years since Sonic really mattered. Sonic's unfortunately been stuck in a spotlight since 2006, especially. It's 2006 has pretty much been the epitome of, like, don't release a game like this.
Yeah, 06 really didn't do it any favors.
No, and it's not going into the history, the development of that game. I will say I think the hatred for it is overblown. It's not good.
I didn't enjoy it.
I would even call it bad as a game. But I've played worse, and it's been more recent.
It's a unique game, and it had some interesting story. And the introduction of Silver. Yeah. But in a whole, it was not a good game.
No. But, like, Sonic's been in the spotlight. He never really left. When you talk about major gaming icons, especially for the platforming genre, or, you know, old games, Sonic's been there. He's always been stuck in Mario's shadow, unfortunately, but...
Oh, yeah.
It is there. He never left the spotlight. Because there's a reason why every time a game came out, and, you know, the last handful of Sonic games have not been very good at release, being glitchy, buggy messes, they became the lolcow of the internet. Justified, in some ways. I can even talk about nothing, though. This article's stupid. Stuart Gibb, you're stupid.
It's rambling. It's rambling and self-pity. Self-loathing.
Yeah?
Like, why can't things be the way they were 30 years ago? And I only play the same game over and over again. But then he's mad about playing the same games over and over again, too?
Exactly. He's mad about playing the same levels that were repeated from old games, so...
Well, he wants the same old game with new levels. Well, I'm sure somebody could make that for you as a fan game.
And it was called Sonic Mania.
Yeah.
Which he doesn't like either. Yeah.
So, again, what do you like, other than the original game? But you don't like that anymore because it's too samey.
Yeah, at least he shouldn't if he's consistent, but...
I would just like to know from this guy what games he does like. I'm still confused.
No idea. Well, unfortunate for you, viewer, who is listening to this. This was very stupid. And I apologize.
I don't know what games he likes, and the world may never know.
Let us know what you think. Are we being too critical of Stuart Gipp here? Did we miss something? Are we actually the nitwits? You let us know. Have a good day.
Gotta go fast.